You ever have one of those mornings that starts ordinary? Coffee in one hand, laptop in the other, and then, in the span of a few breaths, everything you thought you had is put on display. Questioned, ripped apart like it never mattered. That was Ava Morales' morning. And yeah, it changed everything. Fast. Act 1. The Hook and Setup. Ava used to joke that her briefcase had been to more courtrooms than some lawyers' entire careers. She graduated top of her class from Bluestone Law, clerked for a federal appellate judge, and landed a summer spot at Harrison & Cole's civil rights team. Not because someone handed it to her, but because she outworked everybody. That morning, she was on her way to pitch a case that could really put her firm on the map, her tablet full of exhibits, a worn photo of her grandmother tucked inside the folder. A woman who smiled in a black and white photo next to a flag, a woman who taught Ava that dignity matters even when nobody is watching. Ava steps down the steps of the Riverfront Transit Station suit, crisp headphones down. Mind rehearsing her opening points when a uniformed officer cuts across her path. Officer Brian Harlow Badge, glinting a face like someone who thinks the world owes him something he never earned. He says, loud enough for everyone within earshot, "This stuff doesn't come cheap. Where'd you get it?" His hand drops to his holster like he's about to draw a conclusion. People around them notice. A banker pauses mid-step, a courier slows, a young woman films with her phone. Ava keeps her voice steady. She knows exactly how this scene usually plays out in her head, assumptions a rush to humiliation, an apology rarely given. "Sir, I'm a summer associate at Harrison & Cole," she says, calm the words practiced without rehearsing them. "I can show you my identification, my firm badge, anything you need." He laughs like it's a private joke. "Yeah, right. Which one of your parents paid for law school?" The question lands like a slap, and you can feel the morning tilt. Act 2. Pressure escalation and the turning point. When he orders her to turn, when he says, "Hands behind your back," it's not just about cuffs. It's about erasing a lifetime of proof with a single sneer. Ava asks plain and precise, "Am I being detained, or am I free to go?" That question jolts everybody because it's not a plea, it's a legal scalpel. Most people fold under the weight of the badge, but Ava's been trained to speak the language of power. And in that moment, words are her shield. The crowd thickens, phones rise, and a few familiar faces step forward. Former classmates, a partner from a non-profit she'd helped pro bono, a barista who once linked her to a lead. They identify her, they vouch for her, and Harlow doubles down by grabbing her phone mid-ring and reading the name off the screen in mockery. Mom. Top secret. Really. He starts to call her a fraud, to imply her success is some clever scam. It's performative. He wants an audience, he wants the humiliation public. Except the person on the other end of that incoming call is not some rich patron or a PR stunt. It's Colonel Elena Rivera, retired Special Operations Commander, who'd been running classified missions overseas for 2 decades. She answers, cool as ice. She doesn't yell, she doesn't beg. She gives a 10-second order, and somehow the whole tenor of the room shifts. You can almost hear the blood drain from Harlow's face when he recognizes authority that doesn't bow to municipal posturing. Now, here's the thing. We like stories where a bossy parent stomps in and fixes everything, but that's not the arc here. The real turning point is what happens between technology truth and accountability. Someone's live stream hits 20,000 views in 10 minutes, the clip spreads, and in the background, on an evidence feed nobody expected, there are complaints, years of them, against Harlow. 43 civilian complaints, a third mentioning biased conduct. Those records had been floated to the side, dismissed at roll call, ignored when budgets mattered more than community trust. But on this morning, that paper trail meets the pixel trail, and suddenly the make-believe confidence on Harlow's face becomes brittle. Ava doesn't fight with fists. She dismantles the narrative with law, with language, with the cold arithmetic of rights violated. "You are detaining me without probable cause," she says, voice quiet but surgical, and she names each violation one by one. Unlawful detention, racial profiling, fabrication of charges. When you hear someone rattle off statutes in a room where most people don't know the difference between a misdemeanor and a motion, it's disarming. It's also dangerous for the officer if those words find the right ears. And the right ears were there. Within 30 minutes, the scene draws not just local reporters, but a team from the Regional Civil Rights Unit and legal aid advocates who'd handled similar cases. The city official on duty comes in brisk because he sees federal eyes. He knows what a public relations nightmare looks like. Harlow, who thought he'd earned the right to decide who looks suspicious, watches the ground open under him. Act 3. Consequence. Reflection and the open end. Harlow gets cuffed. The same metal clicking time that belonged to Ava for a few short, humiliating minutes now wraps his wrists. His file, once a hidden ledger of whispers, becomes a dossier of proof, pattern practice, and neglect. Ava exits the station with her badge. Her things returned, but something else follows her. An invitation to speak at law schools offers to clerk fast-track to fellowship named after her grandmother's quiet courage. Reforms ripple. The city council debates mandatory body cams, independent review boards, a new training curriculum on implicit bias. People call it a watershed. Others say it was performative. Quick fixes on the backs of viral outrage. Here's where it gets messy and where I want you to sit with the tension. Because justice isn't a single picture-perfect ending. Some people cheered when Harlow was arrested. They posted victory gifs. They called it corrective. Others said the militarized response, the speed at which high-level officials rolled in because Ava's family had clout, proved the system works only when the right people notice. Would the same energy have existed if she'd been unknown? They ask, and that's a fair question. You want systemic change that doesn't depend on celebrity or pedigree or who your mother knows. You want equality, period. Ava understands that too. She knows part of her platform came from that image of her grandmother and her mother's steady stare, not from anything magical in her own file. She sits with the discomfort. She channels it into policy work. She helps set up a hotline for people who can't get attention, because surviving one viral moment doesn't fix the root cause. And for Harlow, there was accountability, yes, but also a longer arc of forced reckoning therapy training, things a badge rarely budgets for until the cameras roll. Tone and detail. Make it human. This story isn't about an invincible heroine or a cartoon villain. It's about how real folks react when power and prejudice collide, and about the small acts that tilt the scales. Ava laughs sometimes when she remembers the absurdity of it all, the officer sneering at her bracelet like jewelry proves corruption. Yeah, that happened, she'll say, and then she tells you about nights studying until dawn, about the way her grandmother braided her hair and handed her a phrase that kept her steady. You speak, but don't be loud. Let your work be loud enough. There's bitterness, sure, when she thinks about how many people get silenced every day because they don't have proof or platform or a family who knows a colonel. There's triumph, too, because the transcript of that morning is now a chapter in law school classes, because policies changed, because a young lawyer found her voice in the courthouse. Make no mistake, the moment of viral fame didn't make her a saint. It made her visible. It made others visible, too. The bus driver who'd been stopped 3 times that year, the mother who said her son never came home because of a traffic stop that escalated, the professor who compiled data that suddenly mattered. Visibility, when combined with evidence and pressure, forced institutions to choose, change or resist. They mostly chose to change grudging and uneven, but changed nonetheless. Final beat and call to action. So, what are you going to do when you see something? Film it, speak up, walk away. Because you don't want trouble. This story wants you to wrestle with that question. If you care about fairness, don't just hit share and move on. Use your voice in ways that matter. Call your local council support, independent oversight, back legal clinics that help people without networks. Tell us in the comments, have you seen something unfair and done nothing, or have you stepped in and changed the outcome? Which side are you on when the cameras are off? If this moved you, leave a comment about what's right and what's wrong here. Tell us if you think reform comes too fast or too slow, and share your story. Not just because it makes for good content, but because these stories are how systems begin to bend. Subscribe if you want more real-life, eyes-on-the-ground stories, and if you've got a clip or a first-hand memory, you want us to look at, send it in. Speak up, record responsibly, and remember, people matter more than impressions. What would you have done in Ava's shoes?